Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Business Exam Room podcast brought to you by the company doctors. And I am Randy McKinley, the president and CEO. To date, we've delivered 53 successful business turnarounds using our Forever ROI algorithm. Our dream team of experts has 115 years of hands-on experience and includes 2 PhDs, a digital marketing expert, an IT specialist, a media PR professional, a former bank president, and myself, a turnaround guru with 25 years of hands-on expertise with Fortune 100 companies, all the way down to many mom and pops. Add in 6 proprietary diagnostic business assessments that show where the hidden treasure map in a business is, and you can see how we consistently deliver results. In this podcast, we're going to take the most relevant or painful issues facing a business, we're going to dissect it, we're going to take what's complicated and make it simple. Share our secrets and techniques from our toolkit, because 81% of all business closures were not due to a competitor, and 50% of all businesses fail in 5 years, and 60% make no money. So what you don't know or know and don't fix will likely kill your business. So let's get you in the know and make sure you have some of our tools in your toolkit to make your business a little bit healthier. Now, before we tackle today's hot topic, here's a quick note from our sponsor. This podcast is brought to you by Hashtag Cutouts, the perfect way to create your large custom hashtag signs, cutout, or at signs at your events, weddings, photo booth, birthday parties, and more. What will your custom hashtag or at sign be for your next event? Learn more at hashtagcutouts.com and how to create your own unique hashtag for sharing and reposting pictures on social media. Welcome back, everyone. I think it's time to kick on these bright lights, point it down on that exam room table, pick our topic, rip it apart, put it back together. And we had a special guest who didn't mind these bright lights in that exam room table, and that was Carmen Rad. She was nice enough to sit down for an interview, bring her words of wisdom to this podcast world. And a little bit about Carmen is she's the president of CR&A Custom for 25 years and counting. CR&A is a large format printing business. Secondly, she's president of Hashtag Cutouts for the last 12 years and counting, which is a large custom hashtag sign or at sign for events, weddings, photo booths, etc. So it could be posted on social media so everybody can enjoy. Her original background is fashion and design. She's the former president of the National Association of Women Business Owners. She's involved with the network of teaching young entrepreneurs. She's spoken at Stanford, she's spoken at USC, all in support of young entrepreneurs. She's a Big Picture Editorial Advisory Board member. She's an advocate for women and minority-owned businesses and have been involved with many organizations over the years to promote women and minority owners. And so what makes Carmen so special is when you hear this podcast, you're going to hear that her business originally started in apparel, creating promotional clothing. And she continued to reinvent herself in her company and never has stopped or probably will. So this podcast, plus another one, since there was such good information, is really trying to tap into that wealth of knowledge and pulling out those critical nuggets from Carmen that every business can learn from and use to make their business a little more successful. So kick back and enjoy Carmen Rad as we tackle some multiple topics around business and being successful in business.
Yeah, it's interesting. You talk about entrepreneur. What made you become an entrepreneur and be crazy enough to open your own business?
I was a very young entrepreneur. I was in my early 20s, and I kept hitting the same obstacle. I would work on projects, and that would, create, I could work on $1 million project or $2 million or $3 million, and then I would be told that I was too young to manage it or too young to handle it. But I had already done the work. So
it's interesting. So you were doing the work, but they were like, no, because of your age.
Because of my age. And I worked in a very male-dominated field, and I worked in a very competitive field. I worked in the fashion industry. It is probably the most challenging, difficult industry to work in. It is cutthroat. And I'm soft-spoken, I'm a female, and I'm Latina, which are all the things that I thought were positives because I come to the table with a different perspective. Even being a woman, you come to the table with different ideas, different way of thinking. And I would be told that, no, or wait, or later. And then I thought to myself, well, if I'm going to be broke, then I might as well be broke for myself. So I just one day quit.
And did you even have a product or an idea? Or you just said, you know what, I'm going to just be an entrepreneur?
I think that day when I went on my boss's new boat that I helped basically buy, because I sold a collection of clothing that I merchandised over $3 million. They ended up having their own department in JCPenney. And I made up the the lot numbers. And they had a representative that was paid on a salary to manage that account, but he wasn't able to open it from their corporate offices in Texas. And what I did was I broke them into regions here in Southern California and did test projects. And the results were within a 2-week period, we had a 52% sale through on the merchandise.
That's huge.
That's huge. And so because at that time there was no Massimo or, Billabong,
Yes.
not in young boys clothing, because I worked for a young man's manufacturing company that did 4 to 7, 8 to 20 for children, and they did young men's. And so by coming in through the back door, I was able to merchandise the collection, and I had an eye for that. I already understood, and you can be very fashionable and have style and all of this, but really merchandising has a lot to do with numbers. It has a lot to do with looking at the space, looking at the demographics, the psychographics, and I understood that language even at such a young age. And I studied it. I would go to the regions and I would look around. I would see, well, who lives here, and what do they look like? And so I merchandise collections for each region.
That's impressive. So now it's interesting. So you did this, and then you were on. Go back to the boat for a second. Talk to me. So you were on the boat.
I'm on the boat.
Yes.
And so I'm excited because I think that I'm going to get this large commission check, and I think that I'm going to then be able to buy a house. So I've been house hunting. I've been married for maybe like 3 years, and so I just like, wow, I'm supposed to get this nice check, and it's going to be a great new adventure. And so I was told, Carmen, we need to keep this in house. And so I said to myself, well, we've already shipped, and so we're going to reduce your commission. And so I took my last check and said, I would try to keep someone like me. Like, I'm the type of employee that you wanted to like just harness and like, duplicate me. But instead you're devaluating me. And I can't do this again. It had already happened several times. This was my third one. And when you put together a $3 million purchase order that has a 52% sale through, that is amazing.
That's insane.
So by this time, they don't need me anymore. They don't, because technically the brand has spoken, it's showed results. And so then you can start just duplicating that collection in new colors and bring it into the floor again.
Okay, so it just cycles over and over. But that was the moment you woke up and said, hold it, I need to do something.
I'm still broke.
I'm still broke.
And so
but tell me, that's not a great inspirational story for the people in the world. It's like, you know what, there's so many different things that you can go do, but why not do something that you care about? And that's going to probably provide you more happiness than working for somebody over here who's not going to value you, because guess what? Pay is probably the same.
Yeah. Well, actually, as an entrepreneur with no funding, no backing, no nothing, you're broke again. And it is difficult. But at the same time, I had people in my life that were always telling me, you can do this, Carmen. I have a mom that would always say, why be the secretary? You can be the president. And I really took that to heart. Like, what is it? What do I have that's different from this other person? And really, I didn't have any differences. I was just as knowledgeable. I was educated. I understood what I was doing. I just needed an opportunity to get to the table. And
there was something you mentioned, though. So you had people around you. I think this is a huge point. I'd love to just talk about this. You had people in your life that said you could.
Yes, I had.
Versus saying no.
Yeah. So I am a Puerto Rican woman. And do you know why we have so many Miss Universes?
Besides them, they look good. I mean,
well, if your mom is telling you you are the prettiest, you're the smartest, and you are the greatest all of your life,
that makes a lot of sense.
You're constantly being told this, that, you are those things, then you can become those things if you have a cheerleading squad behind you. And I always had that. I always had support. And my husband was actually really one of the people that would tell me, you can do this, because he was watching me do it. But was I scared? I was scared. I was always somewhat doubting myself, but
it's scary to go into something new with nothing. I mean, you didn't walk out with a job. You said, hey, I'm going to be an entrepreneur. You don't know what that is.
But my first few months in business, I made over $97,000 within 2 months. And
how'd you do that?
Well, I went back to JCPenney and I started to work with them, and I showed them different collections of things. And I saw a void in their market. I was on the floor, and at that time, there was a really big movement on what's called the grunge look.
Mm-hmm.
And they didn't have enough merchandise. And so I went and walked on the streets of Los Angeles, and I found these jobbers, and they had some merchandise. And I said, can I borrow a sample? And he said, said no. And I said, I'll pay for the sample. Here's my deposit. Let me take a few of your shirts and I'm going to be back. And I went and showed them to the stores and they said, yes, how much could you get? How many of these can you get? I went back to the guy and said, I need like $50,000 worth. And we started to put a purchase order together. And so I said, this is my order. Here's my PO from JCPenney. I have no money, but I'm going to write you a check and I'm going to have a check for you in like 4 days. And he took my word for it.
That is incredible. Now that's a story. But what's interesting is you didn't focus on what you didn't have. You focused on what you did have. Was, hey, you know what? You saw something. You recognized there was something missing.
Yes.
And then it was just a matter of being creative. Or did I miss that?
Your instincts kind of tell you because if you've been in a field for a certain amount of time, you kind of know. And I've been able to repeat that formula multiple times.
Yeah. So that's fascinating. So think about what you just did. It's like I talk to businesses all the time. They said, oh my God, I need to borrow money. Well, did you really need to go borrow the money? Or were you creating and let the PO generate the money for you?
At that time, when there is a need for something, people will fund it themselves. If somebody has a need, this formula won't always work for everyone because sometimes you have to build something to be able to then fund it. You have to fund it yourself. But because it's time sensitive and it was close to Christmas, the stores wanted the merchandise. They were able to, I was telling my friends that I was able to get a check from the loading dock as I was delivering merchandise. That's unheard of. But if you see a void, then people will help fund it. And if you're transparent as well, you'd be surprised what clients will do to also be supportive. There are lots of advocates that will support you if you just tell the truth.
Oh, I'm with you. That's interesting. So now, that's a great story. Now you come up to the present. You've had this COVID hit. What are some of the creative things that you've done to keep your business running?
What a great place to stop and do a quick recap. As you can tell, Carmen, what an incredible interview. When you hear that first segment, 3 big takeaways. 1, only limits are the limits you have on yourself. And 2, it's not focusing on what you don't have, but focusing on what you do have and then making a difference with it. And 3, for every entrepreneur in business out there, it is scary to take risks, but it's not about taking risks. It's about taking calculated risks, recognizing that there's opportunities, listening for those problems, and where you have an opportunity to go solve them. That is the difference. Now, let's take a quick break. And we'll see you on the other side.
Sales up 13%, productivity up 50%, profit up 240%, 53 successful business turnarounds and counting. The go-to resource for investors who want to protect their business investments. Wish you could be like that? Well, you can. The Company Doctors Business Wealth and Health Transformation Package can make that happen. The 360-degree approach shows the hidden treasure in every business and how to get it. How is that possible? 6 proprietary assessments, financial models to show current and future, industry ratios for your business, cost savings toolkits, action plan summary from the assessments, 10 hours of consulting with our team, 3 monthly business reviews, and access to our 142 business competency courses. 100% money-back guarantee. Normally valued at $20,800, now available limited time for $1,497. Learn more at thecompanydoctors.com or email us at clients@thecompanydoctors.com and get your company treasure map and forever ROI today.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to part 2 of our interview with Carmen Rad. What a fantastic first half. Learned a lot, but I think we're going to learn even more because the second part, you can hear a few things that'll stick out as listening and looking. And what kind of people do you need around you, and what kind of people do you need on your team? So enjoy part 2 of our roundtable interview with Carmen Rad in the business exam room.
Well, we were working with hospitals a year ago prior to COVID. And so I started to attend more of the meetings that they were having to prepare for this crisis. And I just happened to be in a meeting that talked about the masks. And I was in a room that had 3 walls with pictures of masks from every country all over the space. And I was hearing of products that they were not able to to obtain. The hospitals were desperate to find merchandise. And I was there working on something else. And I went to my network and said, hey, I had found 10,000 masks at that time. It came back to them, met with they're called like environmental specialists that take the mask and then they try them on and they tell you like what can seep through, what if air can come through or if droplets can come through, and they put them on and they do a test. 4 of them showed up. And I learned about the mask, like how it really worked, how you're supposed to truly wear it. And they brought the 10,000 right then and there. And they said, can you get more? And so I went back to my network and I said, yes, I can. And so I researched a large quantity, over 500,000 for one and then another 500,000 for another, and came back and said, this is what I can bring in. And they gave me a purchase order. I almost fell off my chair. I could not believe it. And now I did not have the funding again.
So how did you handle it?
Well, I have my own personal savings. I used up every penny that I had.
So you believed in it so much, you went to your personal savings and pulled all your money.
Yes. And you know what?
Did your husband know?
Yes, he knew.
Okay, just check.
Because CR&A did have the funding, and I had a line of credit, which is even more hurtful to share, that the bank that I worked with wanted to charge me 3 points on an order that would have taken a month 2 months technically to support. And
3 points?
Like that's hard money lending. And
yes, it is.
And then they wanted a copy of the purchase order. And I said, I'm not sharing that with you. In fact, that's insulting. I've never robbed anything. I've never done anything unethical. And I figured.
How long have you been banking with?
About maybe 3.5 years.
That's quite a long time. That's a long time.
Well, maybe other people were doing fraudulent things at the time. I don't know why they chose to do this. And I felt really insulted by it. And so I said, well, I don't need them. I have my own dollars and I have my own money. And but that day that I was doing the wire transfer and I was about to press send, I could feel my heartbeat just like, this is everything that I have. But I also felt compelled to the situation. I was there in the meetings. I was looking at the eyes of the supply chain management people, and people were scared. They were scared. We were in a crisis, and who knows, the person that's using this mask could save my life or my mom's life or my son's life, and so it was that important to do.
No, that's just incredible. And what it's interesting though is it seems like you always have your eyes open for an opportunity. Or am I wrong?
I think that I'm listening.
That's a good way to put it.
I'm listening and I'm looking and I'm more quiet than that's I think one of my best attributes is that because I come in under the radar. Like you don't even see me coming sometimes because I wait until I have everything in place and then I present. And I don't make a promise that I can't. We track that merchandise from China. Like I have a picture of it when it was on the truck, and we knew exactly where it was going. And we knew about problems also that were happening overseas where we decided to reroute this merchandise. It was already at an airport. We had it driven away from that airport that was not, people, the price to ship went up 33% in that particular airport and the freight companies because everyone was going to the same place. So we had it driven 200 miles away to another airport. Then it didn't come in from China. It went through Australia. So sometimes you just have to move very differently and think very quickly to be able to do these type of things. And yes, you have to be listening. You have to be listening to what's happening in the environment. During 9/11, we ended up, because we were printers, we ended up printing flags. But not only did we print the flags, we made the sticks, the sticks that went on the car flags. Well, you couldn't get those. They weren't coming in from China because the ports were closed. Remember, everything was at a standstill. And so merchandise was not allowed into the United States. They were, really inspecting the merchandise. So you had to start making everything in the US. And so we found a mold injection company in El Monte and went there and put these 2 different sticks together that made the parts instead of it being one particular piece, because the car flags that you attach are like, it has a little hook, then it's the stick, then it's another attachment. So we made 3 attachments and found this like crazy, like gorilla glue. And we glued them together. And then we ended up selling those sticks to other manufacturers throughout the United States because they couldn't get the stick. And people just started to find out, well, she's got the stick. So we created over 200 jobs during 9/11.
That's incredible. Go back to, so if there was something, you looked at another small business owner, what advice would you tell them? What would you do?
I would say, you really need to live beneath your means clients, you have to always think, you have to be planning for that rainy day. Always plan for that rainy day. Always have some pennies to the side. Have your own pennies too. You've got to pay yourself, because I know that's one of the things that entrepreneurs sometimes don't do, is that the way they'll pay everyone else. And I did that for a long time as well, until I realized that, I have to pay myself. And because I did, I had the funds to then support myself when there was a crisis. To always be reinventing that, and also really looking at your culture, because when there is a crisis, it's your culture that could either destroy you or they can save you.
Define culture. What are you meaning by culture? Just so it's clear.
The way that people react when there is a problem. Are they problem solvers with you, or are they problem creators that then become another obstacle? Because when you're in a crisis, you don't want to be dealing with HR issues. You need to get everyone that could be an HR issue off of your team or move to the side. They have to. How often have you had to go do that in your career? Get rid of some of the. Because it's the wrong people. I've made mistakes with that. Like, I truly tried to give people over and over opportunities. But as I got older, I realized that when my instinct is telling me no more, or, I really need to write you up, then I do it.
Was that hard? Was that hard early on in your career?
It is hard. It is hard because, you're not trained in that field. And it got all these laws that are always changing. And, one thing that I did do was I would reach out to people who were experts in that field, and I would ask them to guide me and to make sure that I was being compliant. And I would ask myself, am I being unfair in any way? Is this a me issue? And to try to learn, can I be the bottleneck in this situation? So I would reach out to others to then help guide me. And I think that was probably one of the best things that I did. I can take criticism. I can take sometimes being told, you're wrong here, or you need to step back, Carmen. And you learn from doing it.
Do you think that's difficult to have that approach? Have you seen a lot of business owners where that's been difficult?
I think I'm not a micromanager. Like, I really want like people much smarter than me on my team, and I'm fortunate to find them. And so I let them, run. I want them, because I don't want to be doing all the work, and I don't want to be thinking about everything. I really want a team that can guide me, educate me, because business has changed the way you do business. E-commerce, I didn't know anything about e-commerce. I'm terrible still at social media. Even my own Facebook page, I post very little, but I love seeing everybody else. And I love to see that movement of social media. It's a phenomenon. And during COVID, honestly, that's where you really need to be investing in getting yourself seen.
And so that's interesting. You brought that up, from a marketing standpoint. How do you see marketing day from your perspective? Is it, you've got the average entrepreneur out there. What is the best way for them to market, or is there?
It depends on the product. It depends on, do you have a product that could explode by maybe, partnering with a celebrity or getting it out to other people that have much bigger network that then help promote your product.
So you're talking about influencers,
and just honestly sharing. I'm more of a traditional B2B marketer still. We do have e-commerce, but really our way of marketing is still word of mouth. One client will refer me to another client who then refers me to another client. That's really how CR&A has grown. But now being relevant on the internet is extremely important, because most people are looking for you on their phone. And that's a different platform than, the way you build your website on your computer. So you have to understand that those things change, and they change very quickly. So you need experts to help guide you. And you can reach out to people such as yourself, Randy, who then, will connect you and form that team for them, because it's not something that I know, and you have to accept your limitations. Find experts that can help you with those things.
Yeah, it's interesting. You talk about, just want to go back 1 second. So, you talked about referral from your clients. Why do you think your clients refer you to other people?
Because of trust.
That's interesting. You use the word trust. And so expand upon that for everybody, what that means.
Well, I've proven to trust us with their project and with their brand, and that when we're working on a project, it's not their project, it's our project. And we're going to make sure that it is done correctly, that, we don't fray from their corporate identity colors or their brand identity. And we don't make decisions that are outside for them. We make sure that they're involved through the entire process. I won't print until you approve it, because it is your brand. And maybe you've made a mistake when you sent it to me. Things happen like that all the time. And once you build that trust, then they can take it upon themselves when a friend asks, ask, hey, yes, I trust that they will do a good job because that's already embedded.
It's interesting you say that. Let me take it even a step further. So when you look at businesses out there, do you think they spend enough time looking at those clients and making sure they're giving them everything they need, or are they looking at themselves too much and that's causing them not to get referred? What do you think?
I've had actually friends that are vendors that I've had to say, you know what, I really like you and everything, but I can't work with you because yes, you're not treating me like when we're working with a client. It doesn't matter if you're Coca-Cola, the Kings, the Staples Center, we treat you the same. We treat you the same.
Well, I think there's a good lesson that I heard from a friend of mine up in Beverly Hills, and it was fascinating. He owns a restaurant, and he made a comment. We were sitting there. He goes, the person who has, I think he rephrased, he may only have $10 in his pocket. When he's sitting here eating at my restaurant, I don't want him to feel any different than the gentleman sitting over there that has $1 billion in his pocket.
And I believe in that philosophy. It comes, I've had clients that are small companies just refer me to their biggest clients.
Yeah, it's absolutely just amazing. And so, but I didn't mean to get off on that, but it was just so fascinating because I think there's so much for people to learn from that. I think because one of the greatest areas to grow your business is just through your current client base. And I don't think people leverage it. Or, I know you've seen the same thing.
Oh, what can I say, everyone? What a great interview with Carmen Rad. It could keep going and going and going. Actually, we're going to have to continue on the next podcast. There's so much more we want to share with you because it's so enlightening, the stories that she's been telling. But from part 1 and part 2 of this podcast, there's a couple key takeaways. You'll hear that Carmen's got hit with problems, but were they really problems or were they opportunities? And, well, she viewed them as opportunities through her life and her career. And that's a big difference between winning and losing. Is a lot of it is how you view it. And the second thing, big takeaway with you, if you hear her, she has her eyes wide open and her ears wide open, looking for the next possible opportunity where she can take her resources, her expertise, her talent, the things that she has, and then offer something to go fill that gap or niche. And then last but not least, don't be afraid to surround yourself with talent, and because it lifts yourself up, and if you surround yourself with great talent, the higher you can go. So what a great interview. And until next time, good health to you, your family, and your business. Talk to you later. The information provided is intended solely for educational and cannot be used as a substitute for professional advice and/or information, as circumstances will vary from person to person and company to company. You should not act or rely upon information without seeking professional advice. Do not attempt any of the suggestions, actions, solutions, remedies, or instructions discussed on this podcast without first consulting with a qualified professional. The materials are not intended to be, nor do they constitute actionable professional advice. Transmission of this information is not intended to create a professional client relationship between the company, doctors, and you.